Hello and welcome to the wonderful world of percussion instruments. Now today we are talking about the instrument family that is played by either being struck, shaken, or scraped to achieve its proper sound. The first set of instruments we are going to look at today fall under the pitched percussion category. Now pitched percussion instruments have a definite pitch or tone that can be read as it's notated on the grand staff. So the first instrument we're going to look at today is the marimba, standing right here in front of me. Now the marimba has bars that you strike on it that are made out of rosewood or synthetic materials. Rosewood is the best option. Also, if you notice underneath here we have what are called resonators, and these help to capture the sound and control it to produce the best possible tone. So this instrument is generally played with what are yarn mallets right here, as you can see that I'm holding, and it sounds a little bit something like this. So that is the marimba. Now this instrument usually covers up to 5 octaves, meaning that the lowest note is the C below the bass staff on the bass clef, and the highest note can be the C 2 octaves above the treble clef. Now today I'm playing on a 4 1/3 octave, so it has 4 octaves plus a third of an extra octave on the bottom. Alright, so the next instrument on our list of pitch percussion family instruments is the xylophone. Now the xylophone has rosewood bars, like our friend the marimba did, and it also has resonators which fit the same purpose as the marimba, to harness and make the sound as beautiful as possible. Now this instrument can be played with hard plastic, which is what I'm going to be playing with today, or soft plastic, or even rubber. It all depends. But these mounts are a little bit different. They have a rattan handle, which is a little bit more flexible and pliant, instead of our marimba mount, which has a yarn head and has a birch handle. Different mounts for different applications, simply. Like I said before, this instrument is made out of rosewood, and as a result of the bars being shorter and thicker, it produces a shorter sound. Something like that. So let me play you an example of some xylophone music. Alright, so that's the xylophone, and you might notice it looks really similar to the Orff instruments you have in your class, but it has a bigger range and it's played with different mallets. The next instrument in our pitch percussion instrument family is the vibraphone right here in front of me. Now the vibraphone usually has metal bars that are pitched as well, and once again you notice it has resonators on the bottom to help harness and control the sound. Now, the vibraphone is usually a 4-octave instrument in terms of its range. However, this instrument uses yarn or cord mallets, and these are cord mounts, a little bit different than our marimba mounts. These also have rattan handles for flexibility purposes, and the instrument sounds a little something like this. Now, the vibraphone usually has a working motor that turns these little paddles inside the resonators that gives it kind of like an echoey sound. That's another cool feature of the vibraphone. This instrument in our pitch percussion family is the glockenspiel, or orchestra bells. Glockenspiel is a German word meaning orchestra bells, simply. Now, this instrument has metal bars that ring rather freely compared to our other friends that we've talked about so far, with the exception being the vibraphone. So it definitely rings quite a bit. Now, this instrument can be up to 3 1/2 octaves, believe it or not. They all depend on the make and model, of course, and it sounds a little bit something like this. So that's the glockenspiel. Now, the aluminum mounts have a little bit different sounds. So let's listen to the aluminum mounts real quick. So a little bit different sound, a little bit more bright and less ticky, you could say. So this instrument is played quite a bit in the orchestra, and you might hear it in some famous songs and pieces. One of them particularly that I can think of is The Sorcerer's Apprentice from Fantasia. But certainly not least on our list of pitched percussion instruments are the timpani. Timpani are also called kettle drums. Just depends where you are in the world. Most people call them timpani, however. Now, timpani means multiple drums, and as you see here, we have 4 of them. Now, the timpani have heads on top of them, a little bit different than the keyboard instruments. They don't have all the notes laid out for you already. You have to change the note on the head with the foot pedal on each drum. The lower you go with the pedal, the lower the pitch. The higher the pedal, the higher the pitch. Right? Sounds pretty simple to me. Now, this instrument is usually played with timpani mounts that are made out of felt, soft felt, and they have different cores of different materials. It all depends on the type of mallet you have. And the instrument also spans a little less than 2 octaves, so the notes are lower, and they're played typically, they're written in the bass clef so that they can play to match the lower brass parts. These instruments sound a little bit something like this. Now, another technique that can be used on this instrument to perform a sound is a roll, and that's when you move the mallets rapidly back and forth, like this. So those are the timpani. Alright, so now we've listened through all of the different pitched percussion instruments in the pitched percussion family. Now we're moving on to the non-pitched. Now this is the bass drum. This is the first instrument we're going to be taking a look at. So it's rather large, as you can notice. And also, it happens to be made out of wood, as you can see. Usually not rosewood, but sometimes birch or oak or other kinds of woods that they might use. Now there also is a circle going around here made out of steel to hold the drum up with rubber bands. Now the head on the bass drum usually is calfskin or synthetic. This is a synthetic head. So here's a little bit what the bass drum sounds like. And I'm using a felt beater with a wooden handle. And that's the bass drum. So the next instruments in our non-pitched percussion family are the crash cymbals. Now there are also suspended cymbals, which are often hung and rolled with mallets. But these cymbals, however, are struck together to produce their sound. They come in various different sizes. These ones are actually 18 inches, and they are played by being struck together like this. So those are the cymbals. Next instrument in the non-pitched percussion family is the snare drum that I have right in front of me here. Now the snare drum can be made out of wood or metal. This one is made out of both, but the shell is made out of wood. Now this drum typically has either calfskin or synthetic, like our timpani friend and our bass drum friend. This one happens to be synthetic. Now the snare drum is typically played with wooden sticks like I have here. These are actually made out of persimmon, and they have a small bead at the end. The snare drum sounds a little bit something like this. And that is the snare drum. So the next instrument we're going to be talking about today in our non-pitched family of percussion instruments is the triangle. Now the triangle that I have here is held up by a metal clip with a piece of string on it to keep it suspended so it can ring. And it's played with a metal beater like I have here in my hand. So the triangle is often used in lighter passages or to accent stuff going on in the woodwind section. And here's what a triangle sounds like. That's the triangle. Alright, so last but certainly not least in the percussion family, the non-pitched percussion family to be specific, we have the tambourine in my hands here. So the shell is typically made out of some sort of wood and the jingles are made out of some sort of metal. Pretty simple. Now, the jingles go all around the tambourine to produce an even sound for when you have struck notes like this, or shake rolls, or thumb rolls and finger rolls. All different ways of playing the instrument. You can also play it with your knee and your fist or your palm like this. Different ways the instrument can be played depending on the application. So this is the tambourine. I hope you've had as much fun as I had creating these, learning about the instruments today of the percussion family, my favorite family of course, and I hope that you can be excited to listen for these instruments the next time you listen to some orchestral music. Alright, so last but certainly not least in the percussion family, the non-pitched percussion family to be specific, we have the tambourine in my hands here. So the shell is typically made out of some sort of wood and the jingles are made out of some sort of metal. Pretty simple. Now, the jingles go all around the tambourine to produce an even sound for when you have struck notes like this, or shake rolls, or thumb rolls and finger rolls. All different ways of playing the instrument. You can also play it with your knee and your fist or your palm like this. Different ways the instrument can be played depending on the application. So this is the tambourine. I hope you've had as much fun as I had creating these, learning about the instruments today of the percussion family, my favorite family of course, and I hope that you can be excited to listen for these instruments the next time you listen to some orchestral music. Thank you. Alright, so last but certainly not least in the percussion family, the non-pitched percussion family to be specific, we have the tambourine in my hands here. So the shell is typically made out of some sort of wood and the jingles are made out of some sort of metal. Pretty simple. Now, the jingles go all around the tambourine to produce an even sound for when you have struck notes like this, or shake rolls, or thumb rolls and finger rolls. All different ways of playing the instrument. You can also play it with your knee and your fist or your palm like this. Different ways the instrument can be played depending on the application. So this is the tambourine. I hope you've had as much fun as I had creating these, learning about the instruments today of the percussion family, my favorite family of course, and I hope that you can be excited to listen for these instruments the next time you listen to some orchestral music. Thank you.